Part 2, Story Continuation. Theodore didn't sleep. He sat in his study, staring at the text message, reading it over and over until the words burned into his consciousness. The woman in your house works for your enemies. Every instinct he'd honed over 2 years of rejection screamed that he'd been right, that trusting Keisha had been a mistake, that letting his guard down had made him vulnerable to exactly this kind of betrayal. At 6 a.m., he called Octavian. "I need Keisha Grant in my study. Now." "Sir, it's very early." "Now." Keisha arrived 15 minutes later, still in sleep clothes, hair uncombed. She looked tired and worried, but Theodore couldn't tell if that was guilt or exhaustion. "What's wrong?" she asked. Theodore held up his phone, showing her the text. Who is Seraphin Cade?" Keisha's expression shifted, something between recognition and dread. "How did you—" "Just answer the question." "He called me last night. He wanted me to sabotage your assessment, to write that you are unstable, unfit to lead." Theodore felt his world tilt. And I refused. "Before or after he offered to pay you?" Keisha's eyes flashed. "That's not fair." "None of this is fair." Theodore's voice rose. "You show up out of nowhere, claiming you're here to help. You get under my skin, make me trust you, make me think that maybe—" He stopped himself. "And now I find out you're in contact with someone who wants to destroy me." "I'm not in contact with him. He contacted me. Once I refused his offer and hung up." "Why should I believe you?" "Because I'm telling you the truth." "Everyone says that." Lillian said that. "Every one of the 21 women my family sent said that, and they all lied." Keisha stepped closer, her voice firm. "I am not Lillian. I am not those women. I am not lying to you." "Prove it." "How?" "Show me your phone. Let me see the call history, the messages, everything." Keisha pulled out her phone and handed it to him without hesitation. "Look at whatever you want." Theodore scrolled through her call log, saw the unknown number from last night, saw that the call lasted 2 minutes, saw no follow-up texts, no returned calls. But doubt was a living thing, feeding on itself. "You could have deleted messages." "Theodore, you could have a second phone. You could be playing me." "Or," Keisha said quietly, "I could be exactly who I say I am. A woman doing her job who refused to betray you when someone offered her money." Why refuse? If Cade's offer was good enough, because I don't betray people." Keisha's voice cut through his spiraling. "Not for money, not for safety, not for anything. That's not who I am." Theodore wanted to believe her. God, he wanted to believe her. But fear was louder than hope. "Get out. Theodore, get out of my house. Your assessment is over. Leave today. You're making a mistake. The mistake was letting you stay this long." Keisha packed her belongings, fury and hurt warring in her chest. She'd known Theodore would push her away eventually. She'd warned herself not to get invested. But somewhere in the past 9 days, she'd stopped treating him as a case study and started seeing him as someone worth fighting for. And he'd thrown her out the moment he felt threatened. As she loaded her suitcase into the car Isolde service had sent, Octavian approached. "Miss Grant, I'm sorry about this morning. It's not your fault. For what it's worth, I believe you. You're not like the others. Tell that to Theodore." Octavian hesitated. "There's something you should know. Seraphin Cade isn't just a business rival, he's dangerous. 2 years ago, he attempted a hostile takeover of Ashcroft Industries. Theodore stopped him, but barely. Cade has been looking for leverage ever since." Keisha paused. "What kind of leverage?" "Personal leverage. He tried bribing Theodore's former associates, his doctors, even his household staff. He's looking for anything that could prove Theodore is unfit to lead. And if he can't find evidence, he creates it. He targets people close to Theodore." "Yes." Octavian's expression was grim. "If Cade called you, it means he sees you as either an asset or a threat. Either you help him destroy Theodore, or he destroys you to hurt Theodore anyway." Keisha felt ice run down her spine. "Where can I find him?" "Miss Grant, I don't think—" "Where?" Seraphin Cade worked out of a glass tower in the financial district, all modern minimalism and power aesthetics. Keisha walked into his office unannounced. bypassing his assistant with the confidence of someone who'd negotiated with warlords. Cade looked up from his desk, surprise flickering across his handsome features. He was 42, impeccably dressed, with the kind of charm that disguised cruelty. "Miss Grant, I wasn't expecting you." "I'm here to make something clear," Keisha said. "And I refused your offer. I'm not sabotaging Theodore Ashcroft. And if you try to target me to get to him, you'll regret it." Cade smiled, predatory, amused. "You misunderstand. I'm not targeting you. I'm offering you an opportunity. I don't want your opportunities. Everyone wants something, Miss Grant. Money, security, revenge. What's yours? For you to leave Theodore alone." "Ah." Cade leaned back in his chair. "You care about him. How touching. Tell me, does he know you're here? Did he send you to negotiate?" "He doesn't know." "So he threw you out this morning, didn't he? Got my text, accused you of betrayal, sent you packing. Classic Theodore. The man is so terrified of abandonment that he manufactures it." Cade's smile widened. "And yet here you are defending him anyway. That's either loyalty or stupidity." "It's neither." "Oh, it's just the right thing to do." "The right thing," Wade laughed. "Miss Grant, there is no right thing in our world. There's only power and leverage. Theodore has power. You're his leverage, whether you like it or not." "I'm not leverage." "Aren't you? The first woman in 2 years he hasn't completely destroyed. The first person he's let close. The first vulnerability in his armor." Cade stood, walking around his desk. "Do you know what happens to vulnerabilities in my world, Miss Grant? They get exploited." "Is that a threat?" "It's a warning. Theodore Ashcroft is going to hurt you. Maybe not intentionally, but inevitably. Men like him, damaged, paranoid, incapable of trust, they destroy the people who try to save them. You can leave now with my money and your dignity intact. Or you can stay and discover that some people are beyond saving." Keisha held his gaze. "I've worked with warlords, traffickers, and dictators. I've seen men who've done unconscionable things, and I've learned that no one is beyond reaching. Some are just surrounded by people who profit from their isolation." "Like me?" "Like you." Cade's expression hardened. "You're making a mistake, Miss Grant." "Maybe, but it's my mistake to make." She turned to leave. "One more thing," Cade called after her. "Theodore will push you away again, and eventually you'll realize I was right. When that day comes, my offer stands." Keisha returned to find the Ashcroft estate in chaos. Security was doubled. Staff members spoke in hushed, urgent tones. Something had happened. She found Octavian in the hallway. "Well, what's going on?" "Someone tried to breach the estate's security system. They didn't get in, but they accessed the perimeter cameras." Octavian's face was pale. "They were looking for weak points, entry strategies." "When?" "2 hours ago, right after you left." Keisha's blood ran cold. "Cade, we don't have proof, but the timing. Where's Theodore?" "His study. Miss Grant, he specifically said—" Keisha was already moving. She found Theodore at his desk, surrounded by security reports and looking more exhausted than she'd ever seen him. "I told you to leave," he said without looking up. "Someone tried to breach your security." "I'm aware." "It was Cade. He's escalating. He called me. I refused, so now he's making a different move." Theodore finally looked at her. "Why are you here?" "Because whether you believe me or not, I'm not working for your enemies. And right now, you need to know that Seraphin Cade is planning something. I've dealt with Cade before. Not like this. This isn't just business rivalry. This is personal. He sees you as vulnerable because of me, and he's going to use that. Then you being here makes it worse. Or," Keisha said firmly, "me being here means he has to go through me to get to you." Theodore stood, an automatic reflex before remembering he was in his wheelchair. The flash of frustration across his face was raw, unguarded. "I don't need you to protect me. I know you don't need it, but you're getting it anyway." "Why?" Theodore's voice cracked. "Why are you still here? I accused you of betrayal. I threw you out. I gave you every reason to leave. Because I understand what you're doing. You're scared, so you're pushing. You think if you drive me away first, it'll hurt less than if I leave on my own. But Theodore," Keisha moved closer, "I'm not leaving just because you're scared. You should. Probably, but I'm not. Before Theodore could respond, his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered on speaker. Seraphin Cade's voice filled the study. Theodore, I hope you're enjoying your morning. What do you want, Cade? Just to let you know that Miss Grant visited me earlier. Quite spirited, that one. I can see why you've taken an interest. Theodore's eyes cut to Keisha, who nodded confirmation. If you touch her... Oh, I won't touch her. I don't need to. You'll destroy that relationship all on your own. You're too damaged to let anyone stay. We both know that. Cade's voice dripped with false sympathy. I'm just calling to confirm what we discussed. Ah, Miss Grant, the offer stands. When you're tired of Theodore's paranoia, I'll take care of you. Go to hell, Keisha said. Cade laughed. See you soon, Theodore. Watch your back. Or better yet, watch hers. The line went dead. Theodore stared at Keisha. You went to see him? Yes. Why? Because I needed to make clear I wasn't going to help him hurt you, and I needed to understand what we're dealing with. We? Yes, we. Whether you like it or not, Cade has decided I'm leverage against you, which means we're both targets now. Theodore felt something shift in his chest. You shouldn't have done that. Probably not, but I'm not good at walking away from fights. This isn't your fight. It became my fight the moment Cade decided to use me against you. Keisha's voice was steady. So here's what's going to happen. I'm staying. Not because you need protection, but because I refuse to let some corporate sociopath weaponize me against someone I... She stopped herself. Someone you what? Theodore asked quietly. Someone I've started to care about, Keisha finished. Which is inconvenient and probably stupid, but it's true. Theodore sat very still, processing this. You care about me, he repeated. Don't let it go to your head. Even though I accused you of betrayal? Even though I threw you out? Even though... Why, Keisha smiled sadly. Because I see what you're doing. You're testing whether I'll stay through your worst behavior. You're daring me to abandon you so you can prove everyone leaves. But I'm not playing that game, Theodore. I'm staying because I choose to. Not because I have to. Not because I pity you. Just because I choose it. Theodore felt something crack open in his chest, something that had been sealed since Lilian walked away. I don't know how to let you stay, he admitted. Then we'll figure it out together. An alarm suddenly pierced the silence. Octavian's voice came through the intercom. Mr. Ashcroft, we have a situation. Multiple vehicles approaching the estate. They're not authorized. Theodore's jaw tightened. Cade. Security footage appeared on his computer screen. 3 black SUVs approaching the main gate. He's not breaking in, Keisha said, studying the screen. He's making a statement, showing he knows where you live, that he can get close whenever he wants. Call the police, Theodore ordered. Already done, sir, Octavian replied, but they're 20 minutes out. On screen, the SUVs stopped at the gate. Its doors opened. Seraphin Cade stepped out, flanked by what looked like private security. He walked directly to the gate's intercom. Theodore, I know you're watching. I just wanted to introduce myself to Miss Grant properly. Since she's staying in your house, it seems only neighborly. Theodore's hands clenched. Don't engage with him. But Keisha was already moving toward the door. Keisha, don't. I'm not engaging. I'm standing my ground. She looked back at him. You said you don't know how to let me stay. This is how. You let me stand beside you. Not behind you. Beside you. Before Theodore could stop her, Keisha walked out of the study, through the hallways, across the estate grounds to the front gate where Cade waited. Theodore watched through security cameras, his heart hammering. At the gate, Keisha faced Cade through the iron bars. You made your point, she said. Now leave. I'm impressed, Miss Grant. Most people run when I show up with security. You walk toward me. I've faced worse than you. Have you? I don't think Theodore has told you everything about me, what I'm capable of, what I've done to people who stood between me and what I want. I don't care what you've done. I care what you're going to do now, which is leave. Cade smiled. Or what? You'll call the police? They're 15 minutes away. A lot can happen in 15 minutes. Try it, Keisha said coldly. Touch me, and every media outlet in the country will know Seraphin Cade threatened a civilian on Ashcroft property. Your corporate reputation will be destroyed by morning. You think I care about reputation? I think you care about leverage. And harming me gives you none. It just proves you're desperate. Cade's expression darkened. You're making an enemy, Miss Grant. I've made worse. Inside the manor, Theodore made a decision. He activated the estate's emergency system. Floodlights illuminated the entire front gate. Surveillance drones deployed overhead, and backup security had arrived from the perimeter. Then Theodore himself rolled through the front doors, across the courtyard, to the gate where Keisha stood facing Cade. Keisha, step back, Theodore commanded. No, Hunda. That wasn't a request, and I'm not following it. Theodore pulled up beside her, a unified front. Cade's eyes moved between them, calculating. How touching, the broken billionaire and his Jamaican savior. The woman you're threatening, Theodore said, voice like ice, is under Ashcroft protection. That means if you harm her in any way, you'll face legal, financial, and physical consequences. I have resources you can't imagine, Cade. Don't test me. You think you can protect her? You can't even protect yourself. Try me. Sirens wailed in the distance. Cade smiled. This isn't over, Theodore. I just wanted to make sure Miss Grant understood what she's choosing. Goodbye for now. He returned to his SUV. The vehicles departed just as police arrived. As the police took statements and secured the perimeter, Theodore and Keisha stood in the courtyard. You shouldn't have come out here, Theodore said. Neither should you. I'm not letting anyone threaten you on my property. And I'm not letting anyone threaten you at all. Keisha looked at him. We're in this together now. Ooh, whether you're ready for that or not. Theodore stared at her, this woman who'd walked toward danger instead of away from it, who'd stood beside him instead of behind him. For the first time since the accident, Theodore wasn't afraid of being protected. He was afraid of failing to protect someone who mattered. Keisha. His phone buzzed. Text message from unknown number. Now she's a target. Everyone Theodore cares about becomes collateral damage. How long until she realizes you're not worth dying for? Theodore's blood went cold. Cade hadn't been making a statement. He'd been marking his target, and Keisha had just been painted with a bullseye. In Leontine's study, the family council reconvened urgently. Cade showed up at the estate, Balthazar reported, his voice tight. He threatened Keisha Grant directly. And Theodore, Leontine asked. Theodore defended her, publicly, put her under Ashcroft protection. Isolde looked up sharply. He's claimed her? Essentially, yes. Leontine stood, walking to the window overlooking the estate. Then the decision is made. Keisha Grant is no longer an observer. She's family. And anyone who threatens family answers to us. What do you want to do about Cade? Balthazar asked. Leontine's smile was cold, dangerous. We remind him why the Ashcroft family has survived for generations. No one threatens our own. Keisha didn't sleep that night. She sat in her room in the East Wing, laptop open to a blank assessment report that she couldn't bring herself to write. How could she reduce the past 10 days to clinical observations? How could she quantify the way Theodore had evolved from weaponized cruelty to genuine vulnerability? How could she explain that somewhere between his tests and her refusals, she'd stopped being a consultant and started being something else? At 3 a.m., there was a knock on her door. She opened it to find Theodore, still dressed, eyes hollow with exhaustion. I can't sleep, he said simply. Neither can I. Can I come in? Keisha stepped aside. Theodore rolled into her room, the first time he'd entered any space that was hers rather than his. He positioned himself near the window, staring out at the estate grounds, now lit with extra security lights. I keep thinking about what Cade said, Theodore began, that everyone I care about becomes collateral damage. He's right. My father pulled away because being associated with me became professionally inconvenient. My brother uses my disability to argue he'd be a better heir. Lilian left because loving me required sacrifice she wasn't willing to make. Theodore, and now you, I've made you a target. Cade knows the fastest way to hurt me is through you, so he'll come after you, again and again, until you either leave or get hurt trying to stay. Keisha moved closer. Let me tell you something about targets. I've been one before. In Mogadishu, I was kidnapped by a militia because they thought I had leverage with the government. In Colombia, Cartel members threatened my life because I was negotiating against their interests. In Afghanistan, I received death threats weekly for trying to create peace between warring factions. That's supposed to make me feel better? No, it's supposed to make you understand that I don't scare easily, and I don't make decisions based on fear. She sat on the edge of her bed, eye level with him. Cade can threaten me all he wants. It won't change anything. It should. You should run as far from me as possible. Why? Because you're inconvenient? Because protecting you requires sacrifice? Keisha's voice sharpened. Theodore, do you hear yourself? You're using the exact same reasoning Lillian used. You're deciding for me that I can't handle difficulty. You're making my choices for me. Theodore's hands trembled against the armrests. I'm trying to protect you. No, you're trying to protect yourself from the guilt of me getting hurt. Oh, there's a difference here, Daisco. The words hit like a physical blow. Is that what you think? Theodore's voice cracked. That I'm being selfish? I think you're terrified. I think Cade's threat confirmed your worst fear, that caring about someone makes them vulnerable, that love is a liability, that anyone who stays will eventually pay a price. Keisha leaned forward. But Theodore, that's not about me. That's about you not believing you're worth the risk. Maybe I'm not. Maybe that's not your decision to make. Over the next 2 days, Theodore spiraled. He withdrew into his study, conducting business remotely, avoiding everyone, especially Keisha. Extra security patrolled the estate. Octavian fielded calls from concerned family members. The Ashcroft legal team prepared restraining orders against Cade, but none of it made Theodore feel safer. Yet Keisha watched from a distance, giving him space but remaining present. She understood regression. She'd seen it in survivors of trauma, in people who'd been hurt so deeply that any threat triggered complete shutdown. On the third day, she found Theodore in the estate's private gym at 2 a.m., attempting physical therapy exercises with an intensity that bordered on self-harm. You're going to hurt yourself, she said from the doorway. Good. Keisha walked in, closing the door behind her. What are you doing? Trying to remember what it felt like to be useful, to be strong, to be someone who could actually protect the people they care about. Theodore's voice was raw. Before the accident, I was an athlete. I could sail competitively, I could swim, I could run. I could physically defend myself. Now I'm just, stop. I'm just broken. Useless. A liability that everyone else has to protect. Keisha knelt beside his wheelchair, forcing him to look at her. Theodore Ashcroft, you listen to me. Strength isn't about physical ability. It's about showing up even when you're terrified. It's about being vulnerable even when vulnerability feels like death. You think you're weak because you can't walk? You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. How can you say that? You've worked with actual warriors. And most of them used violence because they were too afraid to use words. They performed strength because they didn't know how to be genuine. You? Keisha's eyes held his. You're learning to be honest. You're learning to let people in. You're learning to hope, even though hope has destroyed you before. That takes more courage than any physical strength ever could. Theodore's face crumpled. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Let you matter. Let you be important. Let you be someone His voice broke. I can't lose you, but I don't know how to keep you. Keisha stood, moving to sit on the workout bench where Theodore could see her without strain. Tell me what you're really afraid of, she said gently. I told you, Cade will... No, not Cade. Deeper than that. What are you actually afraid of? Theodore was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. I'm afraid that everyone who knows me, really knows me, will realize I'm disposable. What? The accident didn't make me disposable. It just revealed what was always true. Theodore's eyes were distant, focused on something internal. My father loved me when I was useful. When I was the perfect heir, the golden son, the one who would carry the family legacy. The moment I became complicated, he pulled away. Not dramatically, just gradually. Fewer visits, shorter conversations, more business commitments. Until I understood, his love was conditional on my performance. Lillian was the same. She loved the version of me that could take her sailing, that could dance at galas, that could provide the life she imagined. When that version disappeared, So did she. Not because she was cruel, she wasn't, but because loving me as I actually am required more than she was willing to give. That's her failure, not yours. Was it? Or is it just reality? Maybe love is always conditional. Maybe everyone has a breaking point. And maybe mine just comes faster than most people's. Keisha felt her heart break. You think you're unlovable. I think I'm difficult to love. I think loving me requires sacrifice that most people aren't prepared to make. And I think Theodore's voice cracked completely. I think that realizing I'm disposable is the most honest thing that's ever happened to me. Tears ran down his face now, unchecked. The wheelchair didn't break me, Keisha. It just revealed what I'd always suspected, that I was only valuable for what I could provide. And when I couldn't provide it anymore, everyone left. My father, my fiancé, the friends who used to call, the colleagues who used to respect me. They didn't leave because I'm in a wheelchair. They left because without my usefulness, well, there was nothing worth staying for. Keisha moved back to kneel in front of him, taking his hands. That's the most heartbreaking thing I've ever heard, she said, tears in her own eyes. And it's also completely wrong. How can you say that? You've seen it yourself. Everyone leaves. No, cowards leave. People who can't see past surface value leave. People who mistake performance for personhood leave. Keisha's grip tightened. But your father's inability to love you unconditionally says everything about him and nothing about you. Lillian's departure revealed her limitations, not yours. Every person who left did so because they couldn't rise to the occasion, not because you weren't worth rising for. You can't know that. I know it because I'm still here, and not because I'm stronger than them or better than them, but because I see you, Theodore. Not your wheelchair, not your wealth, not your usefulness. I see a man who's been hurt so deeply, he's forgotten he's human. And humans aren't meant to be useful. They're meant to be valued, just for existing. Theodore pulled his hands back, wiping his face roughly. I don't know how to be seen like that. I know. I don't know how to let someone care without testing whether they'll stay. I know that too. I don't, Theodore's voice broke again. I don't know how to believe I'm worth keeping. Keisha stood, then did something she hadn't done before. She wrapped her arms around him. Theodore stiffened initially. Physical affection had been rare since the accident, but gradually he relaxed into the embrace, his face pressed against her shoulder, his body shaking with sobs he'd held back for 2 years. Miko, you are worth keeping, Keisha whispered. Not because of what you can do, not because you're useful, just because you're you. Complicated, difficult, brilliant, wounded you. They stayed like that for a long time. Theodore crying for the first time since the accident, Keisha holding him through it. When Theodore finally pulled back, his eyes were red but clearer. I've never broken like that before. I know. Everyone who's seen me cry has either pitied me or used it against me. I'm doing neither. Keisha sat back on the bench. I'm just glad you let me see it. Real strength is letting yourself break in front of someone who won't exploit it. Theodore looked at her, really looked at her, and felt something fundamental shift. I don't want you to leave, he said. I know. I'm not just saying that because I'm scared of abandonment. I'm saying it because Theodore paused, searching for words. Because somewhere in the past 11 days, you stopped being a consultant and started being someone I can't imagine not having in my life. Keisha's breath caught. Theodore, I'm not asking you to stay forever. I'm not asking you to commit to anything. I'm just asking, his voice wavered, if I don't push you away, if I actually let you in, if I stop testing whether you'll leave, will you stay? At least for now? Keisha felt tears in her own eyes. Yes. Even knowing Kate is targeting you, even knowing that, even knowing my family will test you constantly, even knowing that, even knowing I'm going to be difficult, that I'm going to panic and spiral in doubt, even knowing all of that, Keisha moved closer. Theodore, I'm not staying because you're easy. I'm staying because you're worth it. The whole complicated, wounded, brilliant mess of you. Theodore reached for her hand, holding it like it was something precious and fragile. I need to tell you something, he said. Okay. The text Cade sent about you being a target, About everyone I care about becoming collateral damage? It wasn't wrong. Everyone I've ever cared about has paid a price. My mother died when I was 12 because she was driving to my school event and got hit by a drunk driver. My best friend in college backed away after the accident because he didn't know how to relate to me anymore. Even Octavian, he's loyal, but I know it costs him. I'm difficult to work for, demanding, paranoid. And you think caring about me will hurt me, Keisha finished. I know it will. Kate already proved that. So what are you saying? That you want me to leave for my own safety? Theodore looked at her, eyes raw with emotion. No, I'm saying I'm terrified that caring about you will destroy you, but I'm more terrified of living the rest of my life without you in it, and I don't know what to do with that. Keisha felt her heart hammer. What are you asking me, Theodore? I'm asking, Theodore's voice shook, if I stop pushing you away, if I actually let myself care about you, if I choose hope over fear just this once, will you stay? Not forever, not with promises we can't keep. Just, will you stay with me? Now, today? Yes. Even though I'm going to be terrified every day that you'll leave, even though, even though I'm going to doubt and question and need constant reassurance, even though, Keisha squeezed his hand, Theodore, I'm not going anywhere, not today. Or not because of Cade, not because of your family, not because you're difficult. I'm staying because I choose to, actively, consciously, every single day. Theodore pulled her closer, resting his forehead against hers. I don't deserve you, he whispered. Probably not, but you're getting me anyway. For the first time since the accident, maybe for the first time in his entire life, Theodore felt chosen. Not for what he could provide, not for his usefulness, just for himself. And it was terrifying. And it was everything. Theodore woke in his room the next morning, sunlight streaming through windows he usually kept curtained. For 2 years, he'd woken up to the same thought, another day of surviving. Today, for the first time, he woke up thinking, she's still here. There was a knock on his door. Come in. Keisha entered with coffee, looking rumpled and beautiful and real. I didn't know if you'd want company, she said, but I made coffee anyway. Stay. Theodore accepted the cup. Please stay. Keisha sat on the edge of his bed, another first, another intimacy he'd avoided since the accident. How do you feel, she asked. Terrified, exposed, like I revealed something I can't take back. Theodore looked at her. Also lighter, like I've been carrying something heavy for 2 years and finally set it down. That's what vulnerability feels like, terrifying and freeing at the same time. Is it always this intense? Only when it matters. Keisha smiled. When it's casual, vulnerability is easy. When it's someone who could actually hurt you, it's terrifying. And I could hurt you? Yes, just like I could hurt you. Now that's what makes it real. Theodore was quiet for a moment. What happens now? Now we figure out how to navigate this, one day at a time. And Cade? We deal with him together, not you protecting me, not me saving you. Together. I don't know how to do that. Neither do I, but we'll figure it out. An hour later, Octavian knocked urgently. Mr. Ashcroft, your family has called an emergency gathering. They're requesting your presence in the main parlor immediately. Theodore and Keisha exchanged looks. They know, Theodore said. Know what? That something changed. That I'm not pushing you away anymore. They know, and now they're making their move. When Theodore and Keisha entered the main parlor, they found the full Ashcroft council assembled. Leontine sat in her usual position of authority. Balthazar stood near the fireplace, much expression grave. Isolde had documents spread across the table, legal papers by the look of them, and in the corner, someone Theodore hadn't expected. Isolde Montclair, the woman who'd sent Keisha in the first place. Theodore, Keisha, please sit, Leontine said formally. What's this about? Theodore asked, positioning his wheelchair protectively near Keisha. This is about Seraphin Cade's threat, Leontine began, and about the decisions we need to make as a family. Decisions? Balthazar stepped forward. Cade has escalated from business rivalry to personal threat. He's targeted Keisha specifically because he knows she matters to you. That makes this a family security issue. So what are you suggesting? Keisha asked quietly. Isolde looked up from her documents. We're suggesting formal Ashcroft protection, which means you would become, legally and socially, part of this family. Under our protection, under our authority. Theodore felt ice spread through his chest. You want to claim her. We want to protect her, Leontine corrected. But that protection comes with conditions. What conditions? Leontine's gaze moved to Keisha. That you agree to remain at the estate under family security. That you cease all independent contact with outside parties. That you submit to family protocols and authority structures. You want to control her, Theodore said, his voice hardening. We want to keep her alive, Balthazar countered. Cade doesn't make idle threats, Theodore. If he's targeted Keisha, he'll follow through. The only way to protect her is to bring her fully into the family fold. Theodore looked at Keisha, reading her expression. Oh, she was recognizing the cage being built, even if it was gilded. And if I refuse, Keisha asked, then you remain a civilian target with no protection, Isolde said flatly. Cade will come after you. We won't be able to help. And Theodore will have to watch you get hurt while being powerless to stop it. That's not a choice, Theodore said. That's coercion. That's reality, Leontine said softly. We're offering protection, Keisha. Real protection. But it requires trust. It requires integration into the family. It requires her giving up her autonomy, Theodore finished. It requires her becoming your tool instead of Cade's target. Isolde finally spoke from her corner position. Or perhaps it requires you making a choice, Theodore. Everyone turned to look at her. What choice? Theodore asked. The choice to claim her yourself. Isolde's eyes were knowing. Right now, Keisha is an outsider under temporary family protection. Vulnerable. Expendable. But if you claim her, truly claim her, not as consultant or guest, but as partner, she becomes permanent family. She gains all protections, all authority, all standing. And Cade can't touch her without declaring war on the entire Ashcroft clan. Silence fell across the room. Theodore stared at Isolde, then at Keisha, then at his family. We want you to decide what Keisha Grant actually means to you, Leontine said, and to make that decision public, formal, permanent. Theodore's hands trembled against the armrests. He'd spent 2 years avoiding exactly this kind of commitment, 2 years protecting himself from exactly this kind of vulnerability. And now his family was forcing him to choose. Let Keisha remain a target, or claim her before the world and risk everything. In the corner, Isolde smiled faintly. She'd sent Keisha to determine if Theodore was salvageable. Instead, Keisha had made him whole, and now the family was demanding he prove it. Keisha reached for Theodore's hand under the table. Whatever you choose, her grip said, I'm with you. Theodore looked at her, this woman who'd stayed through his cruelty, his testing, his breaking, this woman who'd chosen him when he was convinced no one could, and he made his choice. Theodore stood, a reflex before remembering, then remained in his wheelchair, spine straight, facing his family with something that looked like certainty for the first time in 2 years. You want to know what Keisha Grant means to me? Leontine nodded. Yes. You want me to claim her publicly? Formally? Yes. Theodore looked at Keisha, who met his gaze steadily. He saw no pressure there, no expectation, just presence. Then I need to speak with her, privately, before I make any public declarations. Balthazar frowned. Theodore, time is, I said privately. Theodore's voice carried authority he'd lost after the accident. This isn't a business negotiation. This is my life. Give us 30 minutes. Leontine studied him, then nodded. 30 minutes. Then we reconvene. And you make your decision public. Theodore and Keisha retreated to the estate's conservatory, glass walls surrounding them with gardens, offering privacy and light simultaneously. You don't have to do this, Keisha said immediately. Whatever your family is pressuring you to do. They're not wrong, Theodore interrupted. Cade won't stop. He'll escalate until you're hurt or until I break. The only way to protect you is to make you untouchable. And the only way to make you untouchable is to claim you as mine. Yours. As mine, Theodore repeated. Partner, equal, Someone under permanent Ashcroft protection with full family authority? That sounds like marriage without the ceremony. It essentially is. Theodore moved closer. The Ashcroft family doesn't do things casually. A public claiming is binding. It means you're family. It means you're protected. It means I become part of your world permanently, Keisha finished. Even when my assessment ends. Even when the 2 weeks are over. Yes. Keisha was quiet for a long moment. What do you want, Theodore? Not what protects me. Not what your family wants. What do you want? Theodore looked at her, really looked at her, and felt every defense he'd built crumble. I want you to stay. Not temporarily, not conditionally. I want you in my life permanently. I want to wake up knowing you're here. I want to build something with you that isn't based on fear or obligation or protection. I want, his voice cracked, I want to choose you, publicly, completely, in a way that leaves no doubt that you matter to me, even though that terrifies you, because it terrifies me. Because you've taught me that the things worth having are the things that scare us most. Theodore reached for her hand. I'm not asking you to marry me, not yet. I'm asking if I can claim you publicly as my partner, as someone I choose, as someone who matters enough to protect with everything I have. And if I say yes, if I accept this claiming, then you become permanent family. You gain protection, authority, resources, but you also gain scrutiny, expectation, and obligation. The Ashcroft world isn't easy, Keisha. It's demanding and complicated and sometimes cruel. I've survived worse. I know, but this isn't survival. This is choosing difficulty, actively. I need to know you understand what you'd be accepting. Keisha moved closer, taking both his hands. Theodore, I've spent my adult life in conflict zones. I've negotiated in war rooms and refugee camps. I've survived kidnapping, death threats, and violence. Your family's complications don't scare me. They should, maybe, but they don't. Keisha's eyes held his. What scares me is the possibility of walking away and wondering what we could have built together. What scares me is safety, that means isolation. What scares me is choosing easy over meaningful. This won't be easy. I know, but it will be meaningful. And I'd rather have complicated meaning than simple emptiness. Theodore felt something in his chest expand. Hope, possibility, choice. So if I claim you publicly, then I accept. Publicly, completely, with full understanding of what that means. You're sure? I'm terrified, Keisha admitted, but I'm sure. And 2 hours later, the Ashcroft Estate's grand ballroom filled with people Theodore hadn't seen in months. Family members, business associates, social elite, media representatives. Leontine had moved with terrifying efficiency. Within 90 minutes, she'd assembled everyone who mattered in their world, everyone who needed to witness what came next. Theodore sat in his wheelchair at the front of the room, Keisha standing beside him, both dressed formally for the first time. Keisha wore a deep blue dress that Isolde had brought on, simple, elegant, powerful. Her natural hair was styled but not changed. She looked beautiful and entirely herself. Theodore wore a tailored suit that actually fit his seated position properly, something Octavian had commissioned months ago, but Theodore had never worn. Together they looked like equals. Well, the room quieted as Leontine took her position. Thank you all for gathering on short notice, Leontine began. We've called you here to witness a formal family declaration. Theodore took a breath, then spoke clearly. For 2 years, I've been living in fear. Fear of vulnerability, fear of abandonment, fear that my disability made me unworthy of being chosen. I drove away 21 women because I was terrified they'd leave anyway. I built walls so high that no one could reach me. I convinced myself that isolation was strength. The room was utterly silent. Then Keisha Grant arrived. She wasn't sent to marry me. She wasn't sent to fix me. She was sent to determine if I was capable of leading with empathy and emotional intelligence. And in the process of that assessment, she did something no one else has done in 2 years. Theodore looked up at Keisha. She saw me, not my wheelchair, not my wealth, not my usefulness, just me. Complicated, difficult, wounded me. And she didn't run. She stayed. Through cruelty, testing, danger, she stayed. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Recently, a business adversary named Seraphin Cade has targeted Keisha specifically because she matters to me. He's threatened her safety to destabilize me professionally and personally. And my family has rightfully pointed out that the only way to protect someone in our world is to claim them publicly as family. Theodore reached for Keisha's hand. So that's what I'm doing. For all of you, before the family, before the press, I'm declaring Keisha Grant as my chosen partner. She stands under full Ashcroft protection. She has full family authority, and anyone who threatens her answers not just to me, but to the entire Ashcroft clan. The room exploded into whispers, but Theodore wasn't finished. More than that, I'm declaring that Keisha Grant is the woman who taught me that vulnerability isn't weakness, that being seen is worth the risk of being hurt, that choosing someone is more powerful than protecting yourself. His voice strengthened. For 2 years, people have wondered if I was capable of love, if a man in a wheelchair could be worthy of partnership, if disability disqualified me from intimacy. And I'm here to say I am capable, I am worthy, and my wheelchair has nothing to do with my capacity to choose someone extraordinary and hope they choose me back. Theodore looked directly at Keisha. You don't have to respond now. You don't have to say anything, but I need you to know publicly that I choose you, actively, consciously, with full knowledge that this is terrifying and meaningful and real. Keisha's eyes were bright with tears. Can I respond? She asked softly. You don't have to. I want to. Keisha turned to face the room, still holding Theodore's hand. I came to this estate 11 days ago to complete a professional assessment. I expected to observe a difficult man, write a report, and leave. I didn't expect to find someone who challenged everything I thought I knew about strength and vulnerability. Her voice carried clearly through the silent room. Theodore Ashcroft is one of the strongest people I've ever met, not despite his disability, but because of how he's chosen to face it. He could have stayed bitter. He could have stayed isolated. He could have continued pushing people away. Instead, he chose growth. He chose vulnerability. He chose hope, even when hope had destroyed him before. Keisha looked at Theodore. You asked if I'd stay when you stopped pushing me away. You asked if I'd choose you actively, not out of pity or obligation. And my answer, publicly before everyone here, is yes. I choose you, not because you're a billionaire, not because you're an Ashcroft, but because you're Theodore. Brilliant, wounded, honest Theodore. She turned back to the crowd. I'm Jamaican. I have no pedigree, no family connections, no aristocratic background. Some of you have already judged me for that. You've wondered what I'm doing here. You've questioned whether I belong. Her spine straightened. But I'm also someone who's survived conflict zones, negotiated with warlords, and rebuilt communities after violence. I'm someone who knows how to face difficulty without breaking. And I'm someone who sees Theodore Ashcroft not as a broken billionaire, but as a man worth choosing, publicly, permanently. The whisper stopped. So yes, Theodore, I accept your claiming. I accept Ashcroft protection. I accept the scrutiny and expectation and complication. Because I'd rather have complicated meaning with you than simple emptiness without you. Leontine stood, and the room's attention shifted. Let the record show that as of this moment, Keisha Grant stands as Theodore Ashcroft's chosen partner. She has full family protection, full family authority, and full family standing. Any threat to her is a threat to the Ashcroft clan. Leontine's gaze swept the room. This includes business threats, social threats, physical threats. Seraphin Cade, if you're receiving this footage as I know you are, she looked directly at the media cameras. Understand that Keisha Grant is no longer a civilian target. She's family, and the Ashcroft family protects its own. Balthazar stepped forward. Furthermore, any business associate who chooses to work with Seraphin Cade while he maintains threats against our family will find their Ashcroft contracts terminated. Immediately, we're drawing a line. Choose sides carefully. The room erupted in response, some supportive, some calculating, some clearly uncomfortable with the ultimatum. But Theodore barely noticed. He was watching Keisha, who met his gaze with something that looked like win. After the formal declaration, guests approached to offer congratulations, some genuine, many strategic. Cordelia Ashcroft Vane, who'd tried to intimidate Keisha at tea, approached with a calculating smile. "Welcome to the family, Miss Grant. I look forward to seeing how you handle the complexities of Ashcroft society." "I look forward to navigating them," Keisha replied evenly. Parthenia Locke, the Duchess, approached with barely concealed disdain. "How unconventional, a Jamaican liaison. Theodore does have interesting taste." "He has excellent taste," Keisha corrected. "As do I." Evander Crane, the investment banker, approached Theodore directly. "Bold move, Ashcroft, publicly claiming someone with no social standing. Risky." "Everything worth having is risky," Theodore replied. "You should try it sometime." But not everyone was hostile. Salt Montclair approached with genuine warmth. "I sent you to assess him," she said to Keisha. "Instead, you saved him." Well done." "I didn't save him. He saved himself." "With your help." Isolde smiled, which is what partnership looks like. As the event wound down, one final guest approached. Thaddeus Ashcroft, Theodore's father, who'd barely visited since the accident. The room went quiet, sensing drama. "Theodore," Thaddeus said formally. "Father, that was quite a performance." "It wasn't a performance. Claiming a woman with no background, no family, no connections, publicly declaring partnership with someone who could damage the Ashcroft reputation?" Thaddeus's voice carried disapproval. "That's not leadership. That's emotional weakness." Theodore felt rage build, but Keisha squeezed his hand gently. He took a breath. "You're right," Theodore said quietly. "It is emotional. It is vulnerable. Although it is choosing someone based on character rather than calculation. And if you think that's weakness, Father, then you've forgotten what strength actually looks like. I've built this empire by making strategic choices. You've built this empire by treating people as assets, by measuring worth in utility, by loving conditionally." Theodore's voice remained steady but firm. "And the moment I became less useful, you pulled away. Not dramatically, just enough that I understood. Your love was always conditional on my performance." Thaddeus's face hardened. "That's not true. When was the last time you visited me? Not for business, just to see how I was doing?" Silence. "When was the last time you asked if I was happy, if I was okay, if I needed anything beyond professional consultation?" More silence. "Exactly." Theodore looked at Keisha, then back at his father. "Keisha has been here 11 days. In those 11 days, she's seen me at my worst. Cruel, paranoid, broken, and she stayed. She chose me when I was convinced I was unworthy of being chosen. That's not weakness, Father. That's the strongest thing that's ever happened to me." Thaddeus stared at his son, something shifting in his expression. "You've changed," he finally said. "Yes, and not because I learned to walk again, because I learned to let someone see me." Thaddeus looked at Keisha for a long moment. "Can you actually handle him? He's difficult, stubborn, demanding." "Yes," Keisha said simply, "and he's worth it." "Why me?" "Because underneath the difficulty is someone brilliant and honest and capable of profound love. Your son is extraordinary, Mr. Ashcroft. I'm sorry you have been too busy protecting the empire to notice." The room held its breath. Thaddeus's jaw worked. Then unexpectedly he nodded. "Welcome to the family, Miss Grant. You'll need to be strong to survive us." "I've survived worse." A ghost of a smile crossed Thaddeus's face. "I believe you have." He turned and left without another word. Theodore sat very still, processing what had just happened. "Did you just challenge my father?" he asked Keisha. "Yes. Was that wrong?" "No, that was perfect." As guests filtered out, Octavian approached urgently. "Mr. Ashcroft, we have a situation." "What kind of situation?" "Seraphin Cade just issued a public statement. He's claiming the Ashcroft claiming of Miss Grant is a publicity stunt. He's challenging the authenticity of your partnership. And Octavian hesitated. "Wow, he's demanding proof that he's invited you both to the annual charity gala next weekend. In front of the city's entire social elite, he's claiming if you're truly partners, you'll attend together, publicly, and face whatever he has planned. Theodore's jaw tightened. He's setting a trap, obviously. And if we don't attend, then he'll claim you're hiding, that the claiming was strategic, not genuine, that Keisha is just a chess piece in family politics. Theodore looked at Keisha. He's forcing us to prove this publicly, to face him on his territory. Then we do it, Keisha said simply. He'll have something planned, some humiliation, some reveal, some way to undermine us. Probably, but we face it together. You're sure? Theodore, we just claimed each other before your entire world. A charity gala is nothing. Theodore smiled despite himself. You really don't scare easily, do you? Not even a little. Across the city, Seraph and Cade watched footage of the Ashcroft claiming on multiple screens. His assistant entered. Sir, they just confirmed attendance at the gala. Good. Cade's smile was predatory. Now we see if their partnership survives public pressure. I've arranged several surprises for the evening. By the end of the night, either Theodore Ashcroft will be humiliated or Keisha Grant will realize she's made a terrible mistake. And if neither happens, then I escalate further. But one way or another, Theodore Ashcroft will break. Everyone does eventually. In Leontine's study, the family council reconvened. He attended the claiming, Balthazar noted. Theodore's father actually showed up and challenged Theodore publicly, Isolde added. That could have gone very badly. But it didn't. Leontine's expression was thoughtful. Theodore defended his choice. Keisha challenged Thaddeus. They stood together. That's significant. Cade won't stop, Balthazar warned. He's setting traps. Then we'll be ready. Leontine stood. Keisha Grant isn't just Theodore's partner now. She's family. And we protect family. Whatever Cade has planned for the gala, he'll find the entire Ashcroft clan standing against him. The days following the public claiming shifted everything. Keisha woke on day 12 in the estate. Her temporary assignment long expired, her professional assessment theoretically complete. But she wasn't leaving. She'd been claimed, publicly, permanently. Yeah, and she was grappling with what that actually meant. She found Theodore in the library, reviewing security protocols for the upcoming gala with Octavian. We'll have 6 security personnel in formal wear, Octavian was saying, plus estate security monitoring remotely. If Cade makes any physical move, he won't, Theodore interrupted. Physical violence is too obvious. He'll try something social, something that humiliates publicly without obvious aggression. Octavian nodded and left, passing Keisha with a respectful nod. Theodore looked up. You're up early. Couldn't sleep. Keisha sat across from him. I've been thinking. About? About what happened 3 days ago, the claiming, what it means. Theodore's expression shifted to concern. Are you regretting it? No. But I'm also not naive about what I've accepted. Keisha leaned forward. Theodore, I need you to understand something. I accepted being your partner. I accepted Ashcroft protection. But I didn't accept becoming a possession. There's a difference. I know that. Do you? Because your family is already treating me differently. Isolde sent me a schedule of family obligations. Cordelia invited me to a society luncheon like I'm suddenly interested in that world. Leontine assigned me a family advisor to help me navigate Ashcroft expectations. Theodore's jaw tightened. I didn't authorize any of that. I know, but that's my point. Your family sees me as an asset now, something to shape and control and position. And I need to know, is that what you see too? No, God, no. Theodore moved closer. Keisha, you're not an asset. You're not a chess piece. He struggled for words. You're the first person who's ever seen me as human instead of useful. Why would I reduce you to usefulness? Because that's how your family operates. And now I'm part of that family, which means I'm subject to their expectations, their control, their... No, Theodore's voice was firm. You're under Ashcroft protection, not Ashcroft control. There's a difference. Tell that to your aunt. I will. That afternoon, Theodore confronted Leontine in her study. You're trying to manage Keisha. Leontine looked up from her correspondence. I'm trying to help her navigate our world. By assigning her handlers? By scheduling her time? By treating her like a debutante who needs training? She's never been in our social circles, Theodore. She needs guidance. She's survived war zones. Yeah, she doesn't need guidance on how to attend society luncheons. Theodore's voice was steel. You claim to support her, but you're treating her like a project to be shaped. Leontine set down her pen. You're right. Theodore blinked, surprised. I am? Yes, I've been treating Keisha like a traditional Ashcroft edition, training her, positioning her, preparing her for society scrutiny. But she's not traditional, is she? No. She's genuine, self-made, comfortable with who she is. Leontine stood, walking to the window. And I've been trying to change that, because I forgot that's exactly what makes her valuable. So you'll stop? I'll stop managing her, but Theodore, Leontine turned back. She will face scrutiny. Cade will attack her character, her background, her worthiness. Society will judge her harshly. But the press will dissect every choice she makes. If she's going to survive in our world, she needs to understand what she's facing. She understands, and she's choosing it anyway. Then she's either very brave or very foolish. Both, Theodore said with the ghost of a smile. Like me. That night, Keisha sat in the conservatory sketching, her usual way of processing emotion. Theodore found her there, staring at a half-finished drawing of the estate. Talk to me, he said simply. Keisha set down her pencil. I'm scared. Of Cade? No, of becoming symbolic. She looked at him. Theodore, before I came here, I was a person. I had work I cared about. I had autonomy. I made choices based on my values, not family expectations. But now you're worried you're becoming Theodore Ashcroft's partner instead of Keisha Grant. Yes. Ma, I'm worried I'm becoming a symbol of your redemption. The Jamaican woman who saved the broken billionaire. The diversity trophy your family can point to. The proof that you're capable of growth. Theodore moved closer. Is that how I treat you? No, but that's how everyone else sees me. At the claiming, people weren't looking at me. They were looking at what I represented. Your choice, your change, your vulnerability. And you don't want to be reduced to what you represent. I want to be seen as a person, with my own goals, my own work, my own identity separate from being your partner. Keisha's voice wavered. I love what we're building, Theodore, but I can't lose myself in it. I can't become just an extension of you. Theodore was quiet for a long moment. When I was recovering from the accident, some of the physical therapists kept telling me I'd need to redefine my identity, that I couldn't be Theodore the athlete anymore, that I needed to find new ways to be valuable. That sounds reductive. It was, because it suggested my identity was based on what I could do, not who I was. Theodore looked at her. You're afraid the same thing is happening to you, that your identity is becoming Theodore's partner instead of Keisha Grant, who also partners with Theodore. Exactly. Then we make sure that doesn't happen. Theodore's voice was firm. You continue your work. You maintain your consulting practice. You take assignments that interest you. You don't become an Ashcroft wife sitting at society luncheons pretending to care about charity galas. But that's what your family expects. I don't care what they expect. I care what you need. Theodore reached for her hand. Keisha, you taught me that vulnerability isn't weakness. You taught me that being seen is worth the risk. You taught me that choosing someone means accepting all of who they are, not just the parts that fit easily into your life. So what are you saying? I'm saying you don't have to change to fit my world. I'm saying your work matters. Your autonomy matters. Your identity outside of being my partner matters. Theodore's eyes held hers. I chose you because of who you are, not who you could become if properly trained by my family. Don't let them reshape you into someone more appropriate. Keisha felt tears prick her eyes. You mean that? Every word. The next morning, Theodore called Keisha to his study. I have something for you. He handed her a folder. Inside were legal documents, incorporation papers, office lease agreements, financial accounts. What is this? Keisha asked. Your independence. Theodore gestured to the papers. It's a fully funded consulting firm, offices in 3 cities, operating budget, legal infrastructure. You can continue your conflict resolution work, take international assignments, maintain your professional identity separate from Ashcroft associations. Keisha stared at the documents. Theodore, this is a lot, I know, but I need you to understand something. Theodore's voice was intense. I'm not claiming you to absorb you into my life. I'm claiming you to support you building your own life alongside mine. This firm is yours, not mine, not the family's, yours. Why? Because you were terrified of losing yourself. And I refuse to be the reason you lose the work you love, the autonomy you've built, the identity you've created. Theodore moved closer. Keisha, when I said I chose you, I meant all of you, including the parts that travel to conflict zones, including the parts that won't fit neatly into society expectations, including the parts that need freedom to be fully themselves. Keisha felt overwhelmed. This is too much. It's exactly enough. You said yes to being my partner. I'm saying yes to being yours, which means supporting your work, not just expecting you to support mine. But your family can handle you having a career, can handle you being absent sometimes, can handle you being more than just an Ashcroft accessory. Theodore's eyes held hers. Unless you don't want this? Unless you'd prefer to integrate fully into the family structure? No, I want this. I want my work. I want my identity. Keisha looked at the documents again. But this is freedom. Real freedom. Exactly. Which means you're not trapped. You're not dependent. You're choosing to be with me because you want to, not because you have no other options. Keisha felt something profound shift. You're giving me the option to leave. I'm giving you the option to stay freely. There's a difference. Theodore's voice was soft. Keisha, I spent 2 years believing everyone leaves. You stayed. But I don't want you to stay because you're claimed and have no choice. I want you to stay because every day you wake up and actively choose me. And you can only do that if you have real alternatives. Keisha set down the documents and moved to sit beside Theodore. You're scared I'll use this freedom to leave, she said quietly. Terrified. Good. Theodore looked at her, confused. Good that you're scared, Keisha clarified, because it means this matters. It means you're risking something real. It means you're choosing vulnerability over control. So you're staying? Theodore, I was always staying, but now I'm staying freely, not because I'm claimed or protected or obligated, but because I actively, consciously choose you every day, even though you could leave, because I could leave. That's what makes the staying meaningful. Keisha took his hand. You've spent 2 years convinced everyone leaves, so you tested them until they left to prove you were right. But you're not testing me anymore. You're trusting me. And trust is so much scarier than control. Theodore felt his chest tighten. What if you wake up one day and realize this isn't worth it? That I'm too complicated, too damaged, then I'll tell you, honestly, directly, and we'll figure it out together. Keisha's voice was firm. But Theodore, I'm not Lilian. I'm not going to silently pull away until you're destroyed by my absence. If I struggle, you'll know. If I doubt, you'll know. If I need space, you'll know, because that's what partnership looks like. Honest communication, not perfect endurance. I don't know how to be in partnership like that. Neither do I. We'll figure it out together. That evening, I'm asking, Isolde Montclair visited the estate. She found Keisha in the conservatory reviewing contracts for her new firm. You accepted his offer, Isolde observed. How did you know? Because you look relieved rather than trapped. Isolde sat beside him. When I sent you here, I thought Theodore needed saving. I was wrong. What did he need? He needed someone who refused to save him. Someone who saw him as whole rather than broken. Someone who would stay without sacrificing themselves. Isolde smiled, and you needed someone who would support your autonomy rather than consume it. I'm still scared, Keisha admitted. Scared of the gala, scared of what Kate has planned, scared of whether I can actually handle Theodore's world. You can handle it, but more importantly, you don't have to handle it alone. Isolde gestured toward the manor. Theodore isn't just giving you freedom, he's giving you partnership. Real partnership. or where both people maintain their identities while building something together. Is that possible in his world? It's rare, but yes, it's possible. Assault stood. The gala will test you. Cade will try to prove you're out of place, that you don't belong, that you're just Theodore's diversity project. But Keisha, yes, you've survived worse, and this time you're not alone. 3 days before the gala, Theodore found Keisha packing for a trip. Where are you going? He asked, trying to keep panic from his voice. Colombia, there's a situation with a peace negotiation I was working on before I came here. They need me for 3 days. Theodore felt ice spread through his chest. You're leaving? Now? 3 days before the gala? Yes, this is exactly what we talked about, Theodore. I have work. Work that matters. Work that exists before you and will exist alongside you. But the gala, I'll be back the morning of, I promise. Keisha moved closer. Theodore, this is the test. Can you let me go knowing I'll come back? Can you trust that my leaving for work doesn't mean I'm abandoning you? Theodore's hands trembled. Every instinct screamed that if she left, she wouldn't return. That this was the beginning of the end. That, yes, he said, voice shaking, yes, I can let you go. Are you sure? No, I'm terrified, but I trust you. Theodore looked at her. You said you'd come back, so I believe you. Keisha kissed him gently. I'll be back, I promise. And when I return, we'll face Cade together. Together, Tina, Theodore repeated, trying to believe it. Keisha left for the airport. Theodore sat in the empty conservatory, fighting every impulse to call her back. Octavian found him there an hour later. Sir, are you all right? She left. For work. She'll be back. Will she? Theodore's voice was hollow. What if she gets there and realizes how much easier life is without Ashcroft complications? What if she decides, Mr. Ashcroft, Octavian's voice was firm, Miss Grant is not Lillian. She told you she'd return. Trust her word. How? By surviving the next 3 days without spiraling, by letting her do her work, by proving to yourself that you can let someone leave without it destroying you. Theodore nodded, not convinced but trying. 2 days before the gala, Theodore received a text from Keisha. Negotiations are intense but productive. Missing you. Can't wait to be back. Theodore stared at the message, feeling something ease in his chest. She'd checked in, without being asked, without obligation, just because she cared. The morning of the gala, Theodore woke to silence. Keisha should have returned by now. Her flight had landed 3 hours ago. No message, no call, no explanation. Theodore felt panic rise. He called her phone, straight to voicemail. He called Octavian. Track Keisha's location. Now. Sir, I'm sure she's just now. Within minutes, Octavian returned, face pale. Sir, her phone's last location was the airport, but there's been no movement for 2 hours. Security cameras show her leaving the terminal with 2 unidentified men. Not Ashcroft security, not her usual contacts. Theodore's blood turned to ice. Cade. We don't know that. It's Cade. He took her, right before the gala, to prove I can't protect her. To prove she's vulnerable. Theodore's voice was shaking with rage and terror. Get Leontine, get Balthazar, get every security resource we have. Find her. Now. 1 hour before the gala, Theodore's phone rang. Seraphin Cade. Good morning, Theodore. I hope you're getting ready for tonight's event. Where is she? Theodore's voice was lethal. Who? You know who, where is she? Ah, Miss Grant, yes, she's quite safe, for now. Cade's voice was smooth. I'm sure she's told you about her work in conflict zones, how she's so brave, so capable, so independent. But everyone has limits, Theodore. Everyone breaks eventually. If you hurt her, I'm not going to hurt her. I'm just going to show you and everyone at tonight's gala that you can't protect the people you love, that being with you makes people vulnerable. Well, that you're claiming was meaningless theater. What do you want? Simple. Come to the gala alone. No security, no family, no backup. And at midnight, I'll tell you where to find Miss Grant. Refuse and she stays missing. Your choice, Mom. The line went dead. Theodore sat in his wheelchair, staring at nothing. Octavian entered. Sir, we have teams searching. He wants me at the gala alone, no protection, in exchange for Keisha's location. That's obviously a trap. I know. You can't go. I have to. Theodore looked up, eyes burning. He took her because of me, because I claimed her, because I made her vulnerable by loving her. I'm not leaving her in danger while I hide behind security. Sir, Miss Grant would not want you to. I don't care what she'd want. I care about getting her back. Theodore's voice was steel. So tell Leontine I'm going. Tell her not to follow. Tell her. His voice cracked. Tell her if I don't come back, make sure Keisha's firm remains funded. Make sure her work continues. Make sure she knows He couldn't finish. In an undisclosed location, Keisha Grant sat in a locked room, hands zip-tied, alone. She wasn't panicking. She was planning. Because Seraphin Cade had made a critical mistake. He'd assumed she was helpless. And Keisha Grant had survived too many dangerous men to be helpless now. The charity gala, 8 p.m. Theodore arrived alone as demanded, in his wheelchair, wearing formal attire that felt like armor. The ballroom was magnificent, crystal chandeliers, elegant guests, orchestral music. The city's elite had gathered for the social event of the season. And somewhere in this crowd was Seraphin Cade. Theodore scanned the room, thumb and fear warring in his chest. Every instinct screamed that this was a trap, that Cade would humiliate him publicly, that Keisha was still in danger. But he'd come anyway, because love, he'd learned, meant facing fear rather than running from it. Seraphin Cade approached with predatory confidence, flanked by associates. Theodore, so glad you could make it, and alone as requested. How noble. Where is she? Patience. First, let's enjoy the evening. Let's show everyone that Theodore Ashcroft, the great Iron Heir, came to a gala without security, without backup, without the woman he so publicly claimed. Cade's smile widened. Let's show them you're just a man in a wheelchair who can't protect anyone. Theodore's hands clenched. You're making a mistake. Am I? You're outnumbered, outmaneuvered, us in desperate, and I'd say I'm exactly where I want to be. But Theodore wasn't alone. In the shadows of the ballroom, Leontine Ashcroft stood with Balthazar and Isolde, coordinating with security teams Theodore didn't know existed. He thinks he came alone, Isolde murmured into her concealed microphone. But we've had 40 operatives in place for 3 hours. And Miss Grant? Leontine asked. Team located her 20 minutes ago. Old warehouse, industrial district. The security coordinator paused. She's already free, ma'am. What? She freed herself, disabled her captors. She's currently requesting extraction and asking if Mr. Ashcroft is safe. Leontine smiled coldly. Tell her Mr. Ashcroft is exactly where he needs to be, and tell our teams to move. Now. 8:45 p.m. The ballroom doors burst open. Keisha Grant strode in, the hair disheveled, formal dress torn, blood on her knuckles, fury in her eyes. The entire gala stopped. Music halted. Conversations died. Every head turned. Theodore felt his heart stop. Keisha. She walked directly to Seraphin Cade, who'd gone pale. You made a mistake, Keisha said, voice carrying through the silent ballroom. Miss Grant, You assumed I was helpless. You assumed kidnapping me would break Theodore. You assumed, her voice dropped to something lethal, that I was just some civilian caught in your corporate warfare. How did you? I've negotiated with militia leaders. I've escaped kidnapping attempts in 3 countries. You think zip ties and 2 untrained security guards could hold me? Keisha's smile was dangerous. I've been free for an hour. Only I stayed in that warehouse just long enough to make sure your men revealed your entire plan, which my legal team has been recording. Cade's face went from pale to ashen. You kidnapped me across state lines. You held me for ransom. You attempted to coerce Theodore Ashcroft through threats of violence. Keisha gestured to the ballroom entrance, where federal agents had appeared. The FBI would like a word, Mr. Cade. The ballroom erupted. Guests whispered frantically. Media cameras caught everything. Cade tried to back away but found Ashcroft's security surrounding him. Theodore stared at Keisha, overwhelmed. She'd saved herself. She hadn't needed him to rescue her. She'd been the hero of her own story. As FBI agents took Kate into custody, Keisha walked to Theodore. The entire ballroom watched. "You came alone," she said softly. "No," he said, "he'd tell me where you were if I came without protection. You were willing to walk into a trap for me." "Of course I was," Keisha smiled, tears in her eyes. "You're an idiot." "I know. A brave, loyal, completely reckless idiot. I had to. I know why you did it. Because you love me. Because you'd rather risk yourself than let me stay in danger." Keisha took his hands. "But Theodore, you're not responsible for protecting me from every threat. I can protect myself. What I need from you is partnership, not rescue." Theodore felt something profound settle. "You saved yourself." "I did, just like you saved yourself. We're both capable, Theodore. We don't need saving. We just need each other." The ballroom was utterly silent, everyone watching this intimate moment play out publicly. Then Leontine Ashcroft stepped forward, most commanding attention. "For those who don't know me, I'm Leontine Ashcroft, Theodore's aunt, family matriarch." Her voice carried authority. "Tonight we witnessed something remarkable. Seraphin Cade attempted to destroy my nephew through the woman he loves. He assumed Keisha Grant was a weakness to exploit." Leontine's gaze swept the room. He was wrong. Miss Grant is not Theodore's weakness. She's his strength. She's capable, brilliant, and powerful in her own right. She doesn't need Ashcroft protection, though she has it. She doesn't need Ashcroft resources, though they're available. She is her own force. Leontine moved to stand beside Theodore and Keisha. "And as of this moment, the Ashcroft family formally recognizes Keisha Grant not as an accessory to Theodore, but as family in her own right. She has full family authority." Oh, full family standing, full family respect. The room erupted in applause, some genuine, some strategic, but all acknowledging what had just happened. Theodore looked at Keisha. "You're really okay?" "Bruised but fine. You?" "Terrified but better now." "Good, because we have a gala to enjoy, and I refuse to let Cade ruin our first public event together." For the rest of the evening, Theodore and Keisha moved through the gala as equals. Guests approached to offer congratulations, some with genuine respect, others calculating new angles. Cordelia Ashcroft Vane approached with something resembling humility. "Miss Grant, I owe you an apology. I underestimated you." "You did. Don't do it again." Parthenia Locke, the Duchess, approached Theodore directly. "Your partner is formidable." "Yes, she is. I was wrong about her." Parthenia's voice held grudging respect. "She belongs here more than most of us." Thaddeus Ashcroft, Theodore's father, approached last, his expression complex. "You've changed, Theodore." "Yes. The man who arrived tonight, willing to face danger alone for someone he loves. That's not the son I thought I'd lost in the accident." "That's because I'm not lost. I'm finally found." Theodore looked at Keisha, then back at his father. "You taught me that love is conditional. That value comes from usefulness. Keisha taught me that I was wrong, that real love is choosing someone's humanity over their utility." Thaddeus was quiet for a long moment. "I failed you." "Yes. Can we try again? Not as CEO and heir, as father and son?" Theodore studied his father's face, seeing genuine regret. "We can try. But it requires you seeing me as human, not just as legacy." "I'm learning." Thaddeus looked at Keisha. "Thank you for teaching him that he's worth more than his productivity." "I didn't teach him that. He learned it himself. I just refused to let him forget." Late in the evening, Theodore and Keisha found a quiet balcony overlooking the city. "This wasn't how I imagined tonight going," Theodore admitted. "No kidnapping in your plans?" "Surprisingly, no." Theodore smiled despite himself. "Keisha, when I realized you'd been taken, His voice wavered. "I thought I'd lost you. I thought Cade was right, that loving you made you vulnerable, that I'd destroyed the best thing in my life. But you didn't destroy it. You chose it, even when it was scary. I was willing to sacrifice myself for you." "I know, and that's beautiful." But Theodore?" Keisha moved closer. "You don't have to sacrifice yourself to prove you love me. You just have to show up, honestly, consistently, as yourself. That's all? That's everything." Keisha took his hands. For 2 years, you thought you had to be useful to be loved. You thought your value came from what you could provide. But I don't love you for what you provide. I love you for who you are. Complicated, brilliant, wounded, genuine you. Theodore felt tears threaten. I love you too. I don't know if I've said that explicitly, but you've shown it every day in the way you trust me, in the way you support my work, in the way you came here tonight, terrified, to save me. Keisha smiled. Though next time, maybe trust that I can save myself? I'll try. Good, because we're partners, Theodore. Partners support each other. They don't sacrifice themselves for each other. The following week, the Ashcroft family held a private ceremony. Not for the public, not for society, just for family. In the estate's formal parlor, Leontine stood before Theodore and Keisha. Theodore Alistair Ashcroft, you claimed Keisha Grant as your partner. Tonight, we claim her as family. She turned to Keisha. Keisha Grant, you've proven yourself in ways we didn't expect. Not through social performance, not through submission to family expectations, but through genuine strength, authentic character, and unwavering courage. Leontine held out a small box. Inside was a ring, not an engagement ring, but a family signet. This ring that has been in the Ashcroft family for 6 generations. It's given to family members who exemplify our values: strength, loyalty, integrity. We give it to you not because you're Theodore's partner, but because you've earned it yourself. Keisha took the ring, overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. Say you'll continue being exactly who you are. That's all we ask. The ceremony concluded with Balthazar approaching. Miss Grant, I also owe you an apology. I saw you as a risk to be managed. I was wrong. You're an asset to be celebrated. I'm neither a risk nor an asset, Keisha corrected gently. I'm just a person who loves your nephew. Can we start there? Balthazar smiled, genuine this time. Yes, we can start there. Isolde was last. I've prepared documentation formalizing your family standing, legal protections, inheritance rights, authority structures. But there's something else. She handed Keisha a folder. But Theodore mentioned you wanted to maintain your consulting practice. I've arranged partnerships with international organizations that will benefit from your expertise. Pro bono work, if you want it, or paid contracts. Your choice. Why? Because family supports each other's callings, and your calling is important. 6 months later, Theodore sat in the estate's library, reading case files for Keisha's latest negotiation in the Middle East. She'd been gone 3 weeks, would return tomorrow, and he wasn't spiraling, wasn't panicking, wasn't convinced she wouldn't return, because she always came back, because their partnership was built on choice, not obligation, because love, he'd learned, meant trusting someone's freedom. Octavian entered. Sir, Miss Grant's flight just landed. Thank you. Theodore went to the entrance to wait, not because she needed escort, but because he wanted to see her. When Keisha walked through the doors, exhausted and beautiful, she smiled. Miss me? Every day. Good answer. She kissed him, long and genuine. How were things here? Quiet, productive. Your firm handled 2 new clients while you were gone. I heard you approved the Columbia contract. I did. Thought you might want that one. You thought right. Keisha looked around the estate. It's strange. This place used to feel like a museum. Now it feels like home. That's because you're here. I'm not always here. No, but you always come back. That's what makes it home. They walked through the manor together. Partners, equals, both whole on their own, better together. The Ashcroft Foundation. Annual Gala. Theodore and Keisha arrived together, her in elegant attire, him in a perfectly tailored suit, both confident and grounded. The press swarmed immediately. Mr. Ashcroft, how has your life changed since you met Miss Grant? Theodore smiled. I learned that strength isn't about independence. It's about choosing interdependence, choosing to need someone while remaining whole yourself. Miss Grant, how do you balance your career with being an Ashcroft partner? By refusing to see them as separate. I'm Keisha Grant. I do conflict resolution work globally. I also partner with Theodore Ashcroft. Both identities coexist. Neither diminishes the other. Theodore, you were called the Iron Heir, unreachable, incapable of love. What changed? Theodore looked at Keisha. One, I met someone who refused to accept my performance as reality. Someone who saw through my armor to the human underneath. Someone who taught me that being seen is worth the risk of being hurt. And are you happy? For the first time in his life, Theodore answered without hesitation. Yes, completely. Inside the gala, the Ashcroft family gathered. Leontine watched Theodore and Keisha interact with guests. Genuine, warm, equal partners. He's not the Iron Heir anymore, Balthazar observed. No, he's just Theodore. Finally, Leontine smiled. And she's not just his partner. She's her own force. Did you ever imagine this outcome when Isolde first suggested Keisha? I imagined Theodore might heal. I didn't imagine he'd transform. There's a difference. And the family? The family claimed her, not because we had to, because we wanted to. On the balcony, Theodore and Keisha stood together watching the city lights. You know what I realized, Theodore said. What? For 2 years, I thought the accident took everything from me, but it actually gave me something I never had before. What's that? The ability to recognize real love when it appeared. The old Theodore, the one before the accident, would have never seen you. He was too busy performing success to recognize genuine connection. So you're grateful for the accident? No, I'm grateful for what I learned from it. That's different. Theodore turned to face her. Keisha, I need to ask you something, okay? We've been partners for a year. We've faced corporate enemies, family pressure, public scrutiny. We've built something real, something lasting. Yes. Theodore reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. I'm not asking you to become someone different. I'm not asking you to sacrifice your work or your autonomy. I'm asking if you'll choose me permanently. Officially. Not just as partners, but as... Yes, Theodore blinked. I haven't finished the question. You don't need to. Yes. Yes to permanently. Yes to officially. Yes to whatever comes next. Keisha smiled through tears. You taught me that vulnerability is strength. Let me teach you that sometimes the answer is simple. It's just yes. Theodore slipped the ring on her finger, a new design, chosen together, representing their partnership. I love you, he whispered. I love you too, exactly as you are, wheelchair and all, complications and all. Theodore Alistair Ashcroft. I completely and entirely. They kissed as the city sparkled below them. Inside, the gala continued. Isolde Montclair stood beside Leontine, watching the balcony scene. You sent me to save him, Isolde said, but she saved him differently than I expected. How so? I thought she'd teach him to trust. Instead, she taught him to be trustworthy. I thought she'd prove people can stay. Instead, she proved he could let people leave and trust they'd return. I thought she'd fix his brokenness. Instead, she showed him he was never broken, just wounded. Leontine nodded slowly. And what did he teach her? That accepting love doesn't mean losing yourself. That partnership can enhance autonomy rather than diminish it. That being claimed can be liberation instead of captivity. They're good for each other. They're perfect for each other. All because neither one needs the other. They just choose each other. Every day, actively, freely. 2 years later, the Ashcroft estate. Theodore worked in his study while Keisha video conferenced with a negotiation team in Southeast Asia. A toddler played on the floor between them. Aria Ashcroft Grant, their daughter, named after both families, belonging entirely to herself. Theodore finished his call and moved to pick up Aria, who squealed with delight. Daddy! Yes, little one, Daddy's here. Keisha finished her call and joined them. How was the negotiation? Theodore asked. Complex but promising. How was the board meeting? Productive. They approved the expansion into renewable energy. Good. They sat together on the floor, Aria between them, playing with blocks. Remember when you first arrived? Theodore asked. Well, when you thought you'd be here 2 weeks and leave? I remember you tried to pay me off. You tried to destroy me. You tried everything to make me leave. And you stayed. Because I saw something worth staying for. Keisha smiled. A man who was scared but brave enough to risk hoping again. And now? Now you're not scared anymore. Not of being left, not of being loved, not of being seen. Theodore pulled her closer. I'm still scared sometimes. Good. That means you're alive. Arya babbled happily, building towers with her blocks. She's going to be formidable, Keisha observed. Like her mother. Like both her parents. Keisha looked at Theodore. You taught her that disability doesn't define capability. That wheelchairs are just tools, not limitations. That strength comes in all forms. And you taught her that independence and connection coexist. That working globally and loving locally aren't contradictory. That she can be anything she wants while remaining entirely herself. They watched their daughter play, a child born from two people who'd both believed they were unworthy of love, who'd both learned that worthiness isn't earned, it's inherent. The iron heir was gone. In his place was Theodore Ashcroft, partner, father, leader, human. Not broken, not fixed, just whole. Finally, completely, peacefully whole. And that's how a man who scared away 21 women finally found the one who stayed. Not because she saved him, not because he saved her, but because they chose each other. Freely, completely, permanently. If this story moved you, if you believe in love that sees people as whole rather than broken, hit that subscribe button. I've got more stories coming, different couples, different battles, same truth. We're all worthy of being chosen exactly as we are. Drop a comment telling me which moment hit you hardest. Was it when Theodore broke? When Keisha saved herself? When the family finally claimed her? I want to hear what resonated with you. And if you're ready for another story just as powerful, click that video on your screen right now. The next journey is waiting for you. Don't miss it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing in stories where love isn't about perfection. It's about seeing someone's humanity and choosing it anyway. Until next time.